this type of training was used by either elite athletes, but I mixed it with the gamification and the high performance aspect of I want to train like an athlete, like an F1 driver. Hang on a second. If neuroplasticity and our brains start aging in our early 30s, even though symptoms might appear like decades later, why do we wait until something goes wrong? As we age, it's not all dark and bloom in the sense that it's not a full decline, but actually in our 40s we may be able to integrate certain neuronal connections so that we have a bigger vision of what happens around us. We're able to integrate information better.
Dual tasking means being able to do something physical and cognitive at the same time, which is like of utmost importance as we age. Welcome to Think Shift, the podcast that invites you to change your perspective by exploring the incredible power of the human brain and mind. I'm your host, Mantaj Khanna, and I am a brain coach, a neuroscience researcher, and an advocate for holistic health and well-being. My own journey into this work began as a cancer survivor and a caregiver to a family member with Parkinson's. So I've seen firsthand just how profoundly our mind influences our body. And that's why I do what I do. Today, I work with individuals and organizations to build mental resilience, optimize brain health, and to support our healing using science-backed techniques. And as I pursue my own PhD in neuroscience and mind-body medicine, I bring the latest thinking to every conversation. In each episode of Think Shift, I sit down with leading experts to explore how neuroscience, cutting-edge technology, and even everyday practical tools can help us think better, live smarter, and thrive deeper. Every expert that is invited to this show is going to share real-world insights and actionable strategies that you and I can use every day. And my hope is that this isn't just a podcast, but an invitation to you to reimagine what's possible for your mind and body. So, if you're ready for some bold insights, some transformative science, and a few surprise aha moments along the way, you are in the right place. Let's start shifting. My guest today is Anna Milani, the powerhouse behind Sparked, which is Singapore's first brain-body fitness studio. Anna is not just a fitness entrepreneur, she's also a brain performance coach and one of the very few people in the world to create a gym that trains both the body and the mind. She's worked with athletes, high performers, and everyday individuals like you and me to push the limits of what's possible for both the brain and the body. Now, there's a growing field of research that explores what happens when we combine physical fitness with cognitive training, and the results are really compelling. When we train both systems together, it creates this powerful gain in our memory, in our focus, and decision making. Functions which we don't usually associate with going to the gym. So in this episode, we explore a very bold idea that movement isn't just good for our body or our mood. It might be one of the most effective tools we have to even train our brain, especially as we age. So to understand this fully, we're going to look at what actually happens in the brain as we age, why multitasking and dual tasking are not the same, and how movement helps us build cognitive reserve over time. I've been to Anna's gym and I was fascinated. Today, she'll walk us through the machines that she uses in the gym to assess brain performance, how she's measuring progress of her clients, and what kind of routines are most effective for building real cognitive fitness. So if you're curious about mental resilience, aging well, and staying quick on your feet and in your mind, this conversation might just shift the way you think about fitness. Let's get into it. Welcome, Anna.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Hi, thank you for being here. I am so excited about this episode because I have been to your studio and I have failed miserably at many of the tests. Also done well in some, so I will give myself credit. But it got me so curious and I knew I had to have you on this podcast. So I'm going to start off by asking you the inspiration behind Sparked. Why did you start this gym and what's the story behind it?
A story maybe that I want to share is when I was driving one time in the car with my grandma. This was probably, a long time ago, 20 years ago or something. And as we are driving down the road, she starts sharing with me how she's worried about Granddad. We had noticed changes in him, but I didn't really know what that meant. And then she says, well, he actually has Alzheimer's. Back in the days, I had no idea what Alzheimer's even was. And I literally asked her, well, what does that mean? What is it? And she simply put it, well, his brain is shrinking. I just thought, how on earth can your brain shrink? I mean, I was very young, naive, and had no idea. But yeah, since then, obviously, I learned what that really means and the impact it has on everybody around him, how he lost his identity after that, how you lose everything and your abilities. That stayed with me. That's not when I started Spark, though, or got so interested in, but that fact obviously stayed in my thoughts. But then I went and had 3 kids.
Mom.
Whoa, a lot of work. Yeah, you start worrying about things as well.
Sure.
And as I was turning 40, the Alzheimer's, or anyway cognitive decline, came back into my thoughts, and I thought, wow, I've got these 3 little creatures that I want to be around for as long as possible, but I don't just want to be around them just, in my old days in a vegetable state, right?
Yeah.
So maintaining cognitive health, maintaining brain health, remembering their faces, remembering their names, doing things with them, traveling, like spending time if one day I'll have grandkids or not, but being really, really active, mentally and physically. And so that really, really brought it all together for me. That's how I started conceptualizing physical and cognitive gym.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. We have that in common. My grandfather also had Alzheimer's, partly passed away because of it. So I deeply resonate with your story. I did want to ask you, though, about your background in movement. So tell us a bit about that, because I'm sure that played a role, too, in getting this gym started.
I mean, I've always been very active. I loved movement all the time. I have pictures of myself as a kid squatting, basically. Who knows?
We can do some on the show.
Who knows me well knows I love squatting. It's one of my favorite exercises. Then I went into dance. I did all sorts of dance, from ballet to jazz to hip hop to tap dance. I then did a degree in contemporary dance, though. So movement, improvisation, so more creative dancing. I went into personal training, strength training, cardio training, but strength training in particular because when I started weightlifting, I realized how strong I could be. I just really, really felt empowered. That's when I became a trainer. So I started training clients and women, and everybody felt stronger and better. Right. So physically you feel better about yourself. Yeah. I then went and did Pilates, yoga. So I started combining all these techniques together in a way. But I've always remained in fitness. I tried to even think I wanted to be in the corporate world at some point, but that didn't work out. I just cannot leave the movement and health and wellness and fitness industry. When this concept started rolling into my head, this is where I really brought everything together. I started to really think from a physical and cognitive perspective, what do we need as we age? So now it's called longevity, but when I first conceptualized it, longevity wasn't really still a big...
It wasn't a sexy word yet. Yes, yes.
It was the silver economy market back in the days.
So we will talk about why we feel really good when we do exercise. And I think that's that's like, the tip of the iceberg compared to everything else that actually benefits. And we'll get into that. Did you see a gap between what other gyms were offering in terms of just physical fitness Clearly, you were part of these gyms, but then also decided, no, I need to add something cognitive to this because the other type of fitness, cognitive fitness, also matters. So how did that come about?
I mean, it came about from a real need. I thought, okay, well, how do I maintain cognitive health, right? As I age, as my parents age, and so on. I've worked in gyms pretty much my whole life, or in small studios, personal training studios, and so on. And obviously, they are set up in a certain way with certain equipment. I did a massive market research of all the tools, all the equipment, all the machines, all the interventions that were out there to improve cognitive health. And what I noticed that this type of training was used by either elite athletes, like Formula One drivers, tennis players, football players, soccer players, basketball players, you name it, yeah, but very, very high performance. And on the other spectrum, it was used by neurorehabilitation centers, brain health centers, predominantly in the US. And so that really made me think. And I thought, wow, hang on a second. If neuroplasticity and our brains start aging in our early 30s, even though symptoms may appear like decades later, why do we wait until something goes wrong before we start? So it came from a bit of a prevention kind of thought. But I mixed it with the gamification and the high performance aspect of I want to train like an athlete, like an F1 driver. So that's where I brought everything together in the concept of a gym.
Offering it to everyday people, not just to people who are in high performance professions. Right.
Precisely, for the average common me that wants to stay physically and cognitively active. Sure. So that's how it all
Love
really
it.
came
Love
together.
it. It's certainly the first kind that I had seen that was accessible to me. And I love that it exists. And I hope many people will get to try it. And now you touched upon aging. So I think that's one of the key things we need to talk about, and foundational in so many ways. I would love for you to take us through what happens to our brains as we age, and what is the decline specifically that occurs?
I mean, our brains obviously start developing even when we're a fetus. It then peaks around the ages of between 20 to 25 approximately, the time when our processing speed is fastest ever. It's around the age of 18 or something. Full myelination of our neurons is around 25. So that's when our brains mature. After that, then that's when we are able to reason, to function, at least most of us. Hopefully.
Yes, there are always exceptions.
Yes, to the rules. But yes, in our early 30s, unfortunately, our physical abilities and cognitive abilities starts declining already. So our brain starts declining. And how that's happen is our processing speed starts declining, so this is one of the aspects that we may notice. As we age, it's not all dark and bloom in the sense that it's not a full decline, but actually in our 40s, we may be able to integrate certain neuronal connections so that we have a bigger vision of what happens around us. We're able to integrate information better, okay? So it's not all just bad news. And that's where the concept of wisdom comes in as well. You know, when we think older people are more wise and have more wisdom. However, there are things and abilities that decline as we are aging. The ability to remember names. You just meet someone in your early 40s, and then a second later you're like, whoa, I forgot your name. Or you start forgetting faces. I used to be very, very good at faces. Now I've realized that sometimes I'm like, whoa, okay, hang on, I've seen you before, but not so quite sure where and what's your name. So things like that, but also the ability to dual task. So dual tasking meaning doing a physical and cognitive task, starting from around our early 40s and certainly into 50s and so on, being able to do a physical and a cognitive task together.
Got it. So this is different from multitasking.
Yes.
I'll ask you the difference in a bit, but dual tasking means being able to do something physical and cognitive at the same time, which is like of utmost importance as we age, right? Because you don't want to be doing just one or the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or also combining an audio task with a visual task. So I give you an example in real life. Driving, you're focusing and your kids are shouting in the back of the car. And sometimes you lose focus, or turning off the volume of the radio when you're reversing into a parking lot. You're trying to focus so much that you have to avoid any other distraction. So this is another aspect that declines as we age. So the importance of dual tasking,
Right.
we need to maintain that ability. So training that helps us maintain the ability.
Right.
So these are some of the things. Of course, as we age even more in our 60s, 70s, and more obvious signs of cognitive impairment can be seen, and that's when people subjectively realize more something is going on. Yeah, so that's when people start being a bit more worried about things, and that's when maybe they start looking out for interventions.
Right.
And then past the age of 85, I think pretty much 1 in 3 people have Alzheimer's or some sort of
dementia related.
Yeah.
And I think in the 30s and 40s, the decline perhaps has begun, as you're saying. You probably don't realize it or sense it. But then when you're in 50s, 60s, and after that is when it really starts showing up in ways that you didn't expect before. And that's typically when I've seen most people reaching out for help with, focus or memory repair and recall, reaction time, those kinds of things. So it's good to hear that there are ways, and we should get into that segue of how movement can actually help us repair that and prevent it also from declining, right? So can you tell us a bit more about that? How does movement help?
There's a big emphasis on brain and brain health, but yes, it is our body at the end of the day. It's one of our systems, right? So when we exercise, we're stimulating our brain at the same time, right?
Yes.
So any type of exercise, any type of movement will bring blood flow to the brain already. So it's oxygenating our brain.
Yeah.
And with that, there's a cascade of benefits, right? So we are creating new neuronal vessels. Yeah, we are creating new neurons. We are strengthening those connections with repetition of exercise and new stimuli. So that's happening already. There's a cascade of neurotransmitter benefits. There's BDNF, brain fertilizer of the brain, that helps with neuroplasticity. So exercise and movement itself, and even high intensity exercise, bring a lot of benefits by itself.
Yes.
But when combining different type of training together with external stimuli and then reacting to those stimuli, so cognitive motor training, for instance, is even more effective. So what we will do at the gym, really looking at all the aspects that are important from a physical component. So we look at balance. A lot of training forgets about balance. We look at motor skills. It's important to be able to move in a 3D environment to maintain a healthy and fulfilled lifestyle as we age. It's super important to work on your cardiovascular system. Needless to say, VO2 max, one of the biggest longevity predictor. But obviously strength. We need to be strong to maintain function so that we don't fall, so that we don't end up with osteoporosis, and we don't incur into a fall as we're aging. So all these things are important. So how do you combine these things with working on your cognitive abilities? Our cognitive abilities and our cognition is big. It encompasses a lot of things, right? So combining a physical exercise with a cognitive exercise that targets or focuses on a specific domain is what we do.
That's amazing, and we definitely need to go deeper into that, like what that specifically means. But I do want to make sure we just take a pause and underscore what you said even about just movement impacting the brain. Because for most people, like I used to think, movement was about the physical ability, right? Feeling good, maybe getting slimmer, it's weight loss, it's bigger muscles, it's whatever your objective with it is, but it is very physical. And yes, for some people, it also means that, you might get out of the gym and feel really good about yourself. It's this mood boost that happens. But even beyond that, there are structural changes that are happening to your brain which are enabling it to prevent further decline and maybe even in some cases improving brain health. And I think that's really important for people to understand. Some of the research that's been coming out, which I said at the beginning of the episode too, a research that came out from Harvard Medical School that I wanted to cite, which really was pretty amazing. It says that if you stop exercising for even just 10 days, right? There's a significant decrease in the blood flow to your brain, which is what you spoke about. But it's particularly in the hippocampus, which is our memory center. And that is one of the big things that gets attacked as we age, right? Exercise being important also for memory and learning. And one of the brain hacks that I usually talk about with my clients is go exercise before you learn something because you will be so much more effective at it, right? So I just wanted to underscore that. The other really important thing you spoke about was BDNF, and I wanted to just spell it out a bit more, right? So that's brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which, as you aptly described, is a fertilizer for the brain, right? So it helps the brain promote growth, promote survival. All the connections in the brain cells use this fertilizer to get stronger. And when you exercise, you release this BDNF. Again, really important as we age to keep that fertilizer going. So I just wanted to insert that in and underscore what you were saying, because there's a lot of science and a lot of research that is going into this space. I think it has already existed, but there's even more coming out now. Now to switch tracks a bit and getting back to what you were saying in terms of combining this physical activity with the cognitive activity. Let's focus a bit on the cognitive activity, because you spoke of physical, the strength, flexibility, being able to have good cardio. What does cognitive exercise look like?
Very broad, but if we look at it from starting from the 4 cognitive domains, you could be doing exercises that focus more on your executive function, your CEO of the brain, the part of the brain that is in charge of complex tasks, organizing, strategizing, thinking, so on and so forth. So you could be doing tasks that focus on attention, focus, response inhibition, dividing your attention. So this is all executive function. So really connecting the neurons in your prefrontal cortex help with these specific tasks. So what we could be doing at the gym, for instance, we could be doing some maths as an example. Or we could be doing association with colors and names and working on verbal ability as an example while doing a physical task. Or we could be focusing on memory. We could be doing memory games. It could be visual memory or it could be verbal memory. Remembering shopping lists, for instance, or remembering objects or faces or images. Or it could be more motor skills tasks. So you're working more on the back of your brain, on your cerebellum, lots of balancing. That's also good for the brain. Or it could be working on your visual spatial skills. Yeah. So we could be doing, again, 3D movement as we are running around the gym, running around obstacles. Processing speed and reaction time, of course, is super important as well, because, of course, it declines, especially after a certain age. So driving and maybe not being able to brake the car quick enough. Right. So, this is how we combine really all the different cognitive domains with the physical exercise.
Is that the same as multitasking then? Would you say that sounds like you're doing several things at the same time, or maybe not, or you're doing 2 things at the same time, as you said, was dual tasking. Tell us a bit about the difference between the 2.
Dual tasking is multitasking, okay? However, what I've been a little bit annoyed back in, over time is when there's a misconception or a misunderstanding of what multitasking really is. Meaning, people often confuse multitasking with doing 2 things that come from the same stream of information.
Okay.
As an example, listening to 2 different audio stimuli. Okay? Let's say I'm having a conversation with you and I'm trying to listen to a podcast. Well, pretty impossible.
Sure.
Me trying to focus on what you're saying and what I'm trying to learn, my neurons are basically fighting for information. So that's really tiring on my brain. That's why it's not good. Is toxic and exhausting on the brain. But if I'm here having a conversation with you while I'm squatting or lunging, that's actually not bad for my brain, because I'm working two different networks in the brain, and those are connecting because I'm trying to do the two at the same time. So that's where it's good for the brain. That's where it's really working on my brain. This is what dual tasking is.
Got it.
Could I add in an extra stimuli visually?
Yeah.
Yes,
sure.
If I'm able to handle that. So that's really the difference between good dual task and multitasking, and what people confuse it with.
Why is then dual tasking specifically, or maybe even triple tasking, as you said, you add a visual element into it, why is that so important to train for our brains as we age?
Honestly, dual task is part of our everyday life. So when people slow down as they are aging, for instance, when they're not able to maintain a conversation as they're walking and they have to stop, that's dual tasking. That means they've lost dual task abilities. So to maintain that, to live a fulfilling life, you're going to want to walk and talk. So that's exactly why you want to train in this particular training methodology, if you want to call it, to maintain that ability, or driving and talking, having a conversation as you're driving. We don't want to live in silos where we're just focusing on one specific thing only and we can't get distracted.
Do you have clients who come to you that are unable to do dual tasking and then get better at it? Or, how do they typically react and go through this process with you?
I mean, we have a variety of clients with different conditions, and it's so fascinating because the brain, like the bodies, it's so diverse. Not one person is the same to the other. They are so... Two same condition can be so different. And what happens in someone's brain may not happen in someone else's brain. Plus, we have all our strengths and weaknesses that have come from building our own cognitive reserves. So it's extremely fascinating to watch. So dual tasking helps exactly with rebuilding those connections. So yes, we've seen clients getting better after certain conditions, after severe conditions, post-stroke. Again, what level of stroke, and healthy individuals as well, or people that have subjectively realized that they are slowing down, but actually they report feeling better in their everyday life. I feel more confident when I drive because I actually now see objects way further ahead than I used to. I'm more focused at work and I can avoid distractions. I can read documents and stay more focused. These are very, very important things in our everyday life.
Even for people who may not necessarily have a neurodegenerative condition, this is great training to prevent anything happening in the future. I certainly saw it for myself coming to the gym, and being with you, that there are some things that I thought I was actually pretty good at, but perhaps I'm not. And it was an interesting sort of reminder that it's something I need to just continue working on, and also just refreshing to know that there are ways to do it, because I don't think it's something I was fully aware of. Now, you did mention cognitive reserve. For the people who are watching or listening that don't necessarily understand what that is, can you help describe and define that for us?
Yeah. So cognitive reserve means basically, and I steal this from this sentence from a friend of mine, but it's like putting money in your cognitive bank. Right? So you start when you're young and you have a certain level of education. So the more education you get across the years, the more money in the bank you're putting. The more sports you do, the more activities you do, same thing. This is all building towards your cognitive reserve. So you build your cognitive reserve across the lifespan, really, which is a great thing because it's never too late to start learning something new. So the more we expose ourselves to a new hobby, new languages, painting, doing ceramics, or literally learning anything new, that's building again our cognitive reserve. So integrates and encompasses a lot of different aspects, but essentially it's that constant evolution of learning something new. So across a lifetime, it's super important to work on that. So the more we do that when we're younger, the more we have that. And if something was to happen to us a stroke or something like that, we have a better chance to recovery as well.
Right. It's kind of almost like your savings, right?
Yes.
And then you're tapping into your savings when you need it, when it's a rainy day. If I were to use that analogy, would you agree that for people who do have a neurodegenerative condition in their family history, would it be even more important for them to focus on building a cognitive reserve earlier in life?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay. I'm really curious and actually want to learn more about the machines that you have in the gym. And I think a lot of people who are probably listening and watching right now are imagining things at the back of their minds as to what this brain gym looks like. So can you describe to us what are the machines that you have and what are some of the tasks that you get people to do on these machines?
So some of the machines we have are more neuromuscular machines, as per se. We have a cardio machine, the treadmill, that creates sudden interference as you are moving on the treadmill. It goes on different inclines, not just up or flat, but it goes up and down. And it also goes side to side. So when you're on the machine, it's sort of recreating a bit of an outdoor environment. It gets your brain to start to focus already on the task, and it gets your brain ready to react, your brain and body to react, of course, because if you're changing direction, you have to quickly react. We also have a few balancing boards. I love balancing boards. Funny, I didn't used to love them in my 20s. I thought, what a waste of time.
Well, you had good balance then.
Yeah, exactly. We have various boards, balancing boards. One specific, again, has sudden interference. So you are doing physical activity on the board because it's big enough so you can have even a couple of people on the board, and you could even play ball throws on the ball or squats and lunges again or push-ups, but the board moves. So again, it's creating sudden interference. So your brain and body are again reacting. And then we have reaction lights, of course. We have a selection of reaction lights.
Oh, yes, I remember those. Yeah.
We can do games whereby you're just simply reacting. Well, I say simply, it's not really simple. There's a lot of the cognitive going in there because you're seeing the light.
Yeah.
First thing, you have to see the light. And if the light is up there in the corner, you may not see it with the corner of your eye. Yeah, so we are stretching your peripheral vision. We are stretching your depth perception, and your brain has to process it quickly, but your body has to also follow with the action.
Right.
And you also have to have the eye-hand coordination or the eye and foot coordination to tap the light.
Right.
Or while maybe you're holding a ball or you're catching a ball or you have a weight on your shoulder or something. It's not as simple as it sounds after all. Or you could be dual tasking as you are reaching for these lights. You could be doing some motor skills or coordination, sidestepping or running back and forth while you're also doing reaction lights. Or you could be doing games where you're associating a particular color to a particular task. So a bit more of an executive function game. So maybe I'll say to you, when you see purple, I want you to take a right step. So side step to the right. When you see color green, you're going to go to the left. When you see orange, you're going to go forward. When you see yellow, you're going to go backwards. And while you're doing that, you're going to start counting from 99, deducting 3.
Oh,
Whoa.
wow. Okay.
So this is how far we can stretch.
Yeah.
So it's really depending on the client we have in front. You can make it cognitively low demanding in a way. Again, who is to establish what is cognitive load on someone depending on their abilities, right? Or you can really push it to the extreme. And of course, when you're combining it with the physical aspect, you could be doing, you could be carrying heavy dumbbells or something. So yeah, you're pushing the limits like that to constantly challenge and improve.
The cognitive ability or the starting point of that person then determines the type of machines that you put them in and the level of activity that they're doing on those machines. I remember being there and figuring that out. Like there were some machines where I felt I could do the simplest tasks, or maybe even not even do the simplest tasks, and then others where I could. So is there an adjustment from the machine, an adaptability built into the machine to, level set with what the person's actual abilities are?
The machine, based on the scores you get, the machine is able to, has an algorithm that will adjust according to your abilities. But for others, it's still quite coach-led. So the coach would observe, okay, such client finds this easy, I'm going to make it more challenging or harder, or this is too difficult for the client, therefore I'm going to adjust it to their ability. So some machines are more sort of not AI driven, but they are more technological. Others are still more coach led.
That was another thing I really liked, that there was a human being, a coach, that was there motivating me, challenging me, but also motivating me, and of course explaining how things work. And if I had a few questions, I could ask those. Let me ask you this, Anna. You've been doing this for how long again in the Spark Gym? It's been for how long?
It's been since 2021, so 4 years now.
4 years.
Wow. Yeah.
What are some of the biggest changes or the cases that you remember of people who have really seen a significant improvement in their, let's say, physical and cognitive abilities after attending the gym?
A variety of clients. Now, one that just came to my mind literally now was, I think it was about 50 plus, hemiparesis on the left side, not full because he could walk, but he was quite slow when he started training with us. 6 months into it, he was loving the lights. Like if I put a cone on at one side of the gym and the next side of the gym, and I'd say to him, I want you to go from that cone to that cone, okay? And I would time him. He would kind of drag himself along, like half interested, and he would do it though.
Yeah.
He was a great client. But the minute I put like reaction lights, whoa, the speed just increased. I was like, what's going on here? Like super fast. It helps. So he was a great example. Unfortunately, he left Singapore, but I've got incredible memories with him.
Nice.
He was so good. It's so fascinating to, like I said, to see how diverse their brain's abilities are. Not one person is the same as the other.
I don't know if there is a standard, time that you'd mention, and I know I asked you this question at the gym as well, but how long does it take typically for you to feel like you are seeing an improvement? You're maybe getting faster, there's more reaction time, getting stronger. Typically, how long would that be for anyone that wants to join Sparked?
2-3 months minimum, 2-3 months. And it requires a bit of consistency as well.
Sure.
Training twice a week, really, and then doing other things on the side. So we also have certain tools that you can do at home, anytime, anywhere. So I always encourage clients to do things outside of the gym as well.
And these are cognitive tools, I'm assuming? Or?
Cognitive tools. But yes, I also encourage clients to do other form of exercise when they're outside the gym, because really 2 hours training in your whole week is just not enough. It's just not enough.
And I'd assume if I signed up as a client and showed up and was coming to you twice a week, you'd then also guide me on what else I should be doing to complement what I'm doing in the gym with you, right? So
definitely.
I'm going to take you into the future a little bit, right? It feels like, to me, every gym should have this, right? And so I wanted to ask you, how do you see this market, or this new initiative that you've taken evolving over time? Do you see every gym not focusing just on physical but also cognitive, and would that be like your ideal world? I don't know.
Too much competition. Well, the answer is yes. And I think it has evolved massively since I even first started. I mean, people used to think, this is so weird. What is she doing? This is not a gym. This is crazy. But already now, especially with this massive longevity movement and field, there's so much interest in cognition. It's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And that means that it's just going to filter down. So eventually, like, all the big players will have a component or an element, because they would have seen other players having it. There'll be FOMO for it, and the consumer will want it. The whole system is changing, and I feel really more and more people will embrace it and want it.
Yeah, I think, you'll have the people who want to do just physical or just cognitive as well, but the majority of people would want to kill two birds with one stone. I mean, if I'm spending an hour and a half in a gym and I'm taking that time out, precious time out from my day, and I can improve 2 things instead of 1, why not, right? As long as that's adapting to my ability, as long as that's helping me progress and improve, sounds like gold to me.
A no-brainer.
A no-brainer.
Or
I
a
love
full
that.
brainer.
I love that. Okay, so for someone that's listening in or watching this episode and maybe feeling a bit intimidated, right? Like, oh my God, I'm going to go. I'm not so physically fit anyway. And now not only do I have to do that, but I have to do brain stuff too. That's too much, right? So people who might be feeling a bit intimidated, what's the simplest way to get started?
Think of it as a game, gamification, playfulness, being playful, yeah? As adults, we forget to play. So reintroducing that component. So what are some of the things you could do? I mean, there are so many things, but you could simply use balloons, colored balloons with your kids, attaching stimuli to that, attaching verbal ability games to that, playing memory games, memory cards, maybe adding a physical component when you're playing memory cards with your kids.
Sure.
Just being really, really imaginative and creative. That's one way. It's hard to do it on yourself, so just by yourself. So maybe doing it with someone, which then foster the social aspect as well.
Yes,
Good for the brain too. Or playing sports and then adding a certain cognitive component there as well. Of course, if you have access to reaction lights, and at the moment there are options that are relatively accessible. So adding that component as well can be a way of doing it. There are simple apps as well that can be done, again, where you're associating certain stimuli to certain tasks. That can be something simple to do. I mean, if you're really motivated, you could do any cardio activity and then count backwards in your brain or do maths equations.
So inspiring, first of all, that you're doing it. So thank you for doing what you do, first and foremost. And secondly, thank you for sharing all of this knowledge with us, bringing a concept like this to ThinkShift, to encourage people to think about what physical fitness means beyond just the physicality of it, but also, you know, the cognitive aspect of it. Before we end, I do have a rapid fire for you. Ready? Okay. So if you could spend a day inside anyone else's brain, who would it be? And a very quick why.
I'm gonna mix 2 brains, okay?
Go ahead, make it your own.
Bill Gates and Roger Federer.
Very interesting choices. Quick wise.
Okay, so the massive ideas of Bill Gates and the massive impact he has and constantly, with just the mental resilience and the athleticism of Federer.
Love it. Okay, number 2. What's your favorite brain hack or ritual for staying mentally sharp? What do you do?
I do dual tasking, combining NeuroTracker, which is 3D multiple object tracking on a screen, wearing 3D glasses, while I spin or I do balancing exercises.
That sounds really tough, by the way, because I know I remember doing that and it was hard. Okay, if you could instantly download one skill into your brain, what would it be? Okay. Matrix style.
Definitely more mathematical
abilities
that I want to combine with AI learning abilities.
What's one myth about the brain that you'd love to bust?
Well, the fact that you cannot rewire your brain and the brain is not malleable and not neuroplastic. So luckily it's changing, but yes.
Last one, a book, a person or a tool that has impacted you and helped you to shift the way you think.
If I can swear.
Sure. We'll let the team handle the editing. Go for it.
A book, an audiobook actually, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F by Mark Manson.
Yeah.
Loved it. If I cannot swear, then Go Wild by John Ratey, who also wrote Spark. Yeah, a book on exercise and movement, and his book called Go Wild actually focuses still on movement and exercise, but also incorporates adventure and nature. So
love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you, Anna. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing all that wonderful knowledge. Thank you for doing what you do. And I hope everybody takes away from it how much fun exercise can be, not just for the body, but also for the mind, and how important it is to us as we age. Thank you again for being here. Thanks for tuning in to Think Shift, where we uncover the science and stories that help us explore the incredible power of the human brain and mind. I hope this episode sparks something new for you, a fresh idea, a shift in perspective perhaps, or even a small step towards a healthier mind. If it did, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, and even share it with someone who might need this conversation too. Your support helps us bring more powerful insights to curious minds like yours around the world. Next up, we've got more experts, bold ideas, and surprising discoveries coming along your way. So stay tuned. And until then, remember, big shifts start small. Stay curious and keep shifting.